Hi, and welcome back to the Nerd Shelves. I'm Judy.
And I'm Michael.
Today we're going to take a look Ultimate Voyage, Final Quest of the Treasure Fleet.
Yes.
It is published by Little Monks, who also sponsored this video.
Yes.
Michael is going to take you to the overview and then we'll come back in a bit.
Ultimate Voyage is an action-adventure board game set in 1431 AD during the Ming Dynasty. Players set sail with Admiral Zheng He on one last grand expedition, using action cards and deity dice to explore the seas, trade, combat, and gain influence in regions, all while trying to collect prestige and profit points, craft captivating stories in each region, and fill each level of the Porcelain Tower with gifts. The player to most successfully obtain each of these achievements gains the Emperor's favor and is the winner of Ultimate Voyage. Ultimate Voyage is played in up to a maximum of 9 rounds, unless the endgame is triggered. And each round consists of 2 phases. First, the administrative phase, which sets up the round and resolves events such as the Mongol invasion and determining Zheng He's health. Then, the action phase, where players use their action cards and deity strength to perform various actions. But before diving deeper, there are a few key concepts you must understand. The game board illustrates the historical landscape during the early 15th century and is divided into 16 zones. Each of these zones represents territorial influence of a historical port. The zones are then grouped into 6 different regions and 2 seas. These are important when traveling different seasons and encountering monsoon winds and storms, which can affect sailing. Each port also has its own affiliation track. This measures the port's relation towards the Ming Empire. A player can establish tributary relations in that port by adding their player marker if the affiliation track reaches the top during their turn, either by combat or diplomacy. However, if the affiliation drops to the bottom, the port becomes hostile, and players cannot trade or construct a depot in that port, and it initiates combat. Each of the 6 regions also has a story track at the bottom of the board. Players can gain story points for each of the regions in several ways, including establishing tributary relations, winning a combat, acquiring special goods through trade, and some encounter cards. The other 2 main point tracks in the game are represented at the top of the board and are prestige and profit. Each of these can be gained in various ways, and each player will use whichever track they gained the fewest points on towards their endgame victory points. Finally, each action a player can take is represented by an action card, and the player's action strength is determined by the place the action card is in, plus or minus the value of the deity dial they use for that turn. The value of each dial is determined during the administrative phase by the 3 corresponding dice. Once an action card is used, it is turned sideways, and the deity dial is reset and removed from the player mat and cannot be used again that round. Players may also use porcelain and/or troops, depending on the action, for bonus strength. If a player no longer has a deity dial, they may not take any more actions that round. The main actions a player can take on their turn are sailing, combat, construction, diplomacy, exploring, trade, or scouting. Sailing allows players to move from zone to zone along the yellow and blue arrows on the board. These arrows represent the monsoon wind direction in different seasons, and means you can move faster or slower depending on the season. Players sail into new zones where they want to perform other future actions. Once in a zone, players can perform combat to gain story points and tributary relations. They can use the construction action to build depots for bonus strength in future turns, kilns for porcelain during administration, and training camps for troops. A player can perform the diplomacy action to increase or decrease affiliation in that zone, and may also trade to receive goods from the zone. These goods allow players to gain story and prestige points, knowledge, and other bonuses. Knowledge can also be gained in the zone their ship is in by performing the explore action. Knowledge allows players to perform free actions without resetting their deity dial. Finally, a player may scout by using any of the action cards and looking at adjacent zones' goods or rolling for affiliation. During a sail action, if a player ever sails back to Nanjing, where all the ships started the game, that ship is then removed from the game, but the player fills one level of the Porcelain Tower for each tributary relation they have on the board, for more end-game victory points. Once all players have used their deity dials and there are no more actions available, including free actions, a new round begins. Play continues until one of the 4 endgame conditions is triggered. If Zheng He's health track ever reaches the furthest spot to the right, Zheng He has passed away, and this triggers the endgame. The endgame is also triggered if any player reaches both 15 prestige points and 15 profit points. Or if any player completes and reveals 4 objective cards next to their character mat. If none of these occurs, the game ends after 9 rounds. Players score points for the lowest value of either their prestige or profit points, plus victory points earned from objective cards, story tracks, and the Porcelain Tower. And the player with the most points is the winner of Ultimate Voyage.
So that is the overview of Ultimate Voyage. This is inspired by a true event that happened in 1400, where Zheng He lead all the soldiers out for expedition, and it's his final sail. It is very interesting.
Yeah, his final, I think he died on that final voyage.
Yeah, it's based on true event. I think those are really cool.
Yeah.
In the game, you can find some story behind those player board, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's
well.
pretty cool. Yeah, they're different characters, and they each have a little story, a little background around them, and that's pretty neat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty amazing that how they squeeze all the storyline into the game board and present it this way. It's quite interesting.
It's very interesting, yeah. And speaking of the game board, it looks beautiful on the table. It's pretty nice looking game.
Yes, there are a lot of components in here. And this game is going on Kickstarter in October. So you're welcome to look at the link below and check out the Kickstarter.
Absolutely.
So that will be it for today. Until next time.
Go ahead and get another game off of your nerd shelves.
Take care.
Bye.